Have you ever noticed how your mind suddenly finds excuses right before you're about to change your life? That little voice that says, skip this, it's not important? That's not random. That's your old self trying to keep you stuck. Stay right here, because what's coming next might just be the shift you've been waiting for. 1. Understanding the old self. Voice. Have you ever felt that subtle resistance when you try to do something new, like starting a morning routine, changing your mindset, or taking a step toward your dreams? And suddenly your mind whispers, maybe later. Or, what's the point? That's not laziness. That's your old self speaking. The part of you that's built from years of habits, fears, and familiar comfort. Your old self isn't evil or broken. It's simply the identity you've been living in for so long that it believes survival depends on staying the same. It thrives on routine, predictability, and comfort. Every time you try to grow, it panics. Not because it hates change, but because it's scared of the unknown. Think of it like a security system. It goes off every time you step beyond the limits it recognizes as safe. For example, when you decide to wake up earlier, meditate, or pursue a new goal, that old self instantly reminds you of all the times you failed before. It replays your past mistakes, not to hurt you, but to keep you from getting hurt again. It says things like, you've tried this before and quit, or you're not ready yet. But those thoughts aren't facts. They're defense mechanisms. The key is to recognize this voice without fighting it. The moment you notice that resistance, pause and simply say, I see you, but I'm choosing differently now. That small act of awareness begins to separate who you are becoming from who you've been. The old self loses power the moment you stop identifying with it. Real transformation begins when you realize that your old self's voice is just fear disguised as logic. It will always prefer comfort over growth because comfort feels safe, even if it keeps you small. The next time that inner voice tells you to skip something that could expand your life, a video like this, a new idea, a positive habit, remember your future self is waiting on the other side of that decision. When you can observe that old voice with compassion instead of frustration, you finally reclaim control. You stop living reactively and start living consciously. And that's when your true transformation begins. 2. Why resistance means transformation is near. Have you ever noticed that just when you decide to change, to finally commit, to grow, to do better, everything inside you suddenly feels heavier? Doubts appear out of nowhere, distractions multiply, and your motivation starts to fade. It feels like life is pulling you backward. But here's the truth. That's not a setback. It's a sign that transformation is already happening. Resistance is your mind's natural response to growth. It's like stretching a muscle. It feels uncomfortable because you're expanding beyond your current limits. The moment you decide to shift your habits, thoughts, or beliefs, your subconscious starts to panic. It's been programmed for years to protect your comfort zone, and now it senses danger in the unfamiliar. This discomfort isn't a warning to stop. It's proof that you're on the edge of a breakthrough. Think of it this way. A rocket uses the most fuel during liftoff, not while cruising in space. In the same way, your greatest resistance shows up right before liftoff, when your old patterns are being challenged by your new intentions. That friction is energy transforming. The pain, the doubts, and the emotional chaos you feel are all signals that your old identity is breaking apart to make space for a new one. For example, if you start practicing mindfulness, you might initially feel restless or distracted. If you begin setting boundaries, people might push back. If you commit to healing, old emotions might resurface. These aren't signs you're failing. They're signs you're awakening. You're meeting the walls that once kept you small, and every time you push through them, you expand your capacity to grow. When resistance arises, instead of saying, something's wrong, start saying, something's shifting. That simple mindset shift turns discomfort into direction. Resistance isn't your enemy, it's your guide. It points directly to the areas where your soul is ready for evolution. So when everything feels hard, when your old self screams, quit, smile, and keep moving. Because that's not the universe blocking you. That's transformation knocking. You're being stretched into the person you're becoming, and the pressure you feel is simply the birth of your next level. Keep going. You're closer than you think. 3. Emotional patterns that hold you back. Every one of us carries invisible emotional patterns, reactions, beliefs, and feelings that quietly shape our lives. These patterns were formed over years of experiences, often beginning in childhood. They show up when you try to change, succeed, or love yourself, whispering the same emotional stories over and over again. And unless you recognize them, they silently keep you stuck in the same loop. For example, maybe you grew up feeling unseen or unworthy, so now every time you step towards something bigger, a goal, a dream, or even self-acceptance, that old emotion resurfaces. It says, "Who do you think you are?" Or, "You'll just fail again." These feelings aren't truth. They're echoes of old emotional conditioning. But because they feel familiar, your mind believes they're real. Emotional patterns hold power because they live in the body, not just the mind. When you try to take action outside of your comfort zone, your body remembers the fear, the rejection, or the disappointment associated with similar past moments. That's why even small steps can feel overwhelming. You're not just dealing with the present, you're reliving stored emotions from your past. The first step to breaking these emotional cycles is awareness. When you feel fear, procrastination, or self-doubt, don't fight it. Pause and ask yourself, where have I felt this before? Often you'll find it traces back to an old story you've been carrying unconsciously. Once you bring it into awareness, it begins to lose its grip, because emotions only control you when they remain unseen. Next, practice compassion, not judgment. Remember, these patterns formed to protect you. They were your survival tools when you didn't know better. But now you do. So instead of battling your emotions, start learning from them. Let them show you what still needs healing. Transformation doesn't mean never feeling fear or doubt again. It means not letting those emotions dictate your choices anymore. You begin to respond consciously rather than react automatically. When you can observe an emotional pattern, understand its origin, and choose a new response, you reclaim your power. The moment you stop being defined by your old emotions, you become free to create a life aligned with your truth, not your wounds. 4. How to recognize inner sabotage. Inner sabotage often disguises itself as logic, timing, or even self-care. It's that quiet voice that convinces you to delay your dreams, tone down your goals, or settle for less, all while making it sound reasonable. You tell yourself you're just waiting for the right moment, but deep down, that's your subconscious pulling you back into safety. Self-sabotage doesn't always look like failure. Sometimes it looks like perfectionism, endlessly preparing, planning, or overthinking until you never actually take action. Other times it shows up as procrastination or emotional withdrawal right when you're about to make progress. You'll notice sudden distractions, new doubts, or even random life chaos appearing just when things start working. That's not coincidence. It's resistance disguised as logic. This happens because your subconscious identity is wired to match your comfort zone. The moment you begin to act outside that zone, maybe you start believing you deserve success, peace, or love, your mind detects a threat. It tries to pull you back into alignment with the old version of you by creating emotional friction. It's not trying to hurt you, it's trying to protect what feels familiar. Recognizing self-sabotage begins with honest observation. Ask yourself, what do I keep doing that blocks my progress? Maybe you always quit right before results show. Maybe you pick fights, attract distractions, or create unnecessary drama when life feels too calm. These are signs your system is trying to return to its old energetic balance. Awareness is your greatest weapon against sabotage. When you catch yourself in the act, scrolling instead of creating, doubting instead of believing, don't shame yourself. Simply notice it. That moment of awareness is powerful because it breaks the automatic pattern. Once you see it, you can choose differently. The truth is, your inner saboteur isn't evil. It's just scared. It believes safety lies in the familiar, not the fulfilled. But growth requires risk, and your new reality can't bloom in the soil of old excuses. Every time you recognize and rise above self-sabotage, you're training your mind to trust the unknown. That's how transformation truly sticks. Not by fighting your old self, but by guiding it gently toward a new way of being, one conscious choice at a time. 5. The power of awareness and pause. In a world that glorifies constant movement, awareness and pause are revolutionary acts. Most people live in reaction, reacting to thoughts, emotions, situations, without realizing that every reaction strengthens the same old patterns they're trying to escape. The moment you learn to pause, even for a few seconds, you begin to reclaim your power. Awareness is not about controlling your mind, it's about seeing it clearly. It's noticing your thoughts and emotions without becoming them. When you feel anger, fear, or doubt rising, instead of getting lost in the story, you take a breath and simply observe. I'm feeling this. I'm thinking that. This small shift from reacting to observing is where real transformation begins. For example, let's say you're trying to stay consistent with a new habit, maybe meditation, exercise, or journaling. Suddenly your mind says, "You're tired today, skip it." Normally you'd agree and stop. But if you pause for just a moment and become aware of that thought, you'll realize it's just your old self trying to stay comfortable. That awareness gives you the freedom to make a new choice, to act from consciousness, not conditioning. Pausing also creates space between stimulus and response, the sacred gap where growth happens. In that gap, you can choose peace over anger, courage over fear, and discipline over doubt. You stop living on autopilot and start living with intention. Even a few seconds of mindful awareness throughout your day can change your entire state. Try this simple practice. Whenever you catch yourself lost in thought, gently take a deep breath and bring your focus back to the present moment. Feel your body, notice your surroundings. This anchors you in now, where true power resides. Awareness doesn't demand perfection, it invites presence. The goal isn't to silence your mind, it's to understand it. Every pause is a doorway out of chaos and into clarity. When you master the art of pausing, life stops feeling like it's happening to you and starts happening through you. That's when you realize you've always had control, not by forcing change, but by seeing yourself clearly enough to choose it. And in that awareness, your transformation naturally unfolds. 6. Choosing growth over comfort. Every time you're faced with a big decision, whether to change, take a leap, or stay where you are, you're really choosing between two paths, growth or comfort. Comfort feels safe, predictable, and easy, but it also keeps you repeating the same stories. Growth, on the other hand, feels uncertain, uncomfortable, and sometimes even scary. Yet it's the only place where your potential comes alive. Your comfort zone isn't a bad place. It's just a limited one. It's built from habits, beliefs, and experiences that once kept you safe. But as you evolve, those same walls begin to feel like a cage. That's why so many people feel stuck. They crave change but fear the discomfort that comes with it. Growth will always ask something of you: courage, patience, faith, or surrender, and it rarely feels convenient. Think about it. When a seed breaks open, it must destroy its shell to grow. That moment looks messy, but it's the beginning of something new. The same happens within you. The discomfort you feel when stepping into the unknown isn't a sign you're failing. It's proof you're expanding. Choosing growth means saying yes even when you don't feel ready. It means showing up for your goals on the days you'd rather quit. It means believing in your potential more than your excuses. Growth often requires letting go of people, habits, and versions of yourself that can't come with you. And that's okay. Every ending is quietly creating room for a new beginning. The easiest way to tell which path you're on is to ask yourself, does this choice make me feel safe or alive? Comfort makes you feel secure. Growth makes you feel stretched. But that stretch is where transformation lives. Each time you choose growth over comfort, you're reprogramming your subconscious to trust the unknown. You build self-respect, resilience, and alignment with your higher self. Eventually, discomfort becomes a sign you're doing something right. Remember, the most extraordinary versions of you will never be found where it's easy. They're waiting just beyond what's familiar. So when faced with that choice again, take a breath, lean into the discomfort, and remind yourself, growth might be hard now, but staying the same costs far more. 7. Detaching from the fear-based identity. Most people don't realize how deeply fear shapes their identity. It hides behind thoughts like, I'm not ready, what if I fail, or people will judge me. Over time, those fears build an invisible identity, one that limits what you believe you can do, have, or become. Detaching from that fear-based identity doesn't mean never feeling afraid again. It means no longer letting fear define who you are. Fear loves familiarity. It keeps you tied to old stories, the times you were rejected, failed, or made mistakes. It constantly reminds you of what could go wrong instead of what could go right. That fear-based version of you makes decisions from survival, not purpose. It avoids risk, seeks approval, and often overthinks every step. Not because it wants to harm you, but because it wants to protect you from pain. The truth is, fear isn't the enemy. Attachment to it is. When you believe every fearful thought, you merge your identity with limitation. You start thinking, I am fear, instead of I am experiencing fear. That small difference changes everything. Because when you recognize that fear is just energy passing through you, you stop being controlled by it. Detaching begins with awareness. The next time fear arises, don't rush to silence it. Pause and notice. Where is this fear coming from? Whose voice is this? Mine or my old self's? Often you'll realize the fear isn't about the present moment, but a memory your subconscious is still holding. Once you see that, you can respond with compassion rather than panic. You can also reframe fear as feedback, a sign that you're stepping beyond your comfort zone. If your dreams don't scare you a little, they're probably not big enough. Each time you take action despite fear, you're training your mind to trust courage over caution. With time, your identity begins to shift from the one who fears to the one who moves anyway. That's the birth of freedom, when fear becomes a teacher, not a master. You'll know you've detached from your fear-based identity when you stop waiting to feel ready and start living as if you already are. Because the truth is, courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to rise above it. 8. Daily steps to strengthen the new self. Becoming your new self isn't a one-time event, it's a daily practice. Transformation doesn't happen in grand leaps, but in consistent, conscious choices that slowly rewire your mind and energy. The version of you you're becoming is built through repetition, new thoughts, new habits, and new emotional responses that align with who you want to be. The first daily step is intention. Each morning, set a clear inner direction. Ask yourself, how would my new self think, feel, and act today? Even one intentional thought can shift your energy for the entire day. When you start your day with clarity, you stop reacting to life and begin creating it. Next comes awareness. Throughout your day, observe yourself like a gentle witness. Notice when old patterns resurface. Maybe you start doubting, complaining, or slipping back into fear. Instead of judging it, pause and say, that's the old me. This simple acknowledgement keeps you from identifying with your past self. Awareness is how you stop reinforcing who you were and start embodying who you're becoming. Then focus on small aligned actions. Big change is built on tiny, consistent steps. Reading a few pages, journaling your gratitude, meditating for 5 minutes, speaking kindly to yourself, or following through on one promise you made. Every small action strengthens the new identity you're creating. Remember, your subconscious doesn't change through words. It changes through repetition and experience. Another powerful practice is visualization. Spend a few quiet moments each day imagining yourself already living as your higher self. Confident, calm, and purposeful. Feel it as if it's real. Your mind can't tell the difference between imagination and reality, so this trains your brain to accept that version of you as normal. Finally, end your day with reflection. Ask, what did my new self do well today? Celebrate even the smallest progress. Acknowledgement reinforces your growth and builds momentum. Strengthening your new self isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. You're reprogramming years of conditioning, and that takes time. But each time you choose awareness over autopilot, action over avoidance, and faith over fear, you're sculpting the person you were always meant to be. Over time, these small daily shifts don't just change your habits, they change your reality. 9. Energy shifts during personal evolution. When you begin to transform on the inside, your energy naturally shifts, and this change often shows up before anything visible happens in your outer world. You might start feeling different without knowing why. Some days lighter, other days emotionally heavy or disconnected. That's not random. It's a natural part of personal evolution. You're shedding old energetic patterns to make space for new frequencies that align with your growth. Think of it like upgrading your software. Your system can't run new programs with outdated code. In the same way, your energy field, your thoughts, emotions, and vibrations must recalibrate to match your new level of consciousness. This process can feel uncomfortable at times because your body and mind are adjusting to a higher state of awareness. You might notice signs like sudden fatigue, restlessness, bursts of creativity, emotional waves, or even the urge to isolate for reflection. None of these mean you're off track. In fact, they're confirmations that your inner frequency is shifting. You're releasing the energetic weight of old emotions, limiting beliefs, and relationships that no longer resonate with your future self. During this phase, self-care and stillness are vital. Spend time grounding yourself through breathwork, nature, or quiet reflection. Drink plenty of water, rest when needed, and listen to your body. The more gently you treat yourself, the more smoothly the energy integrates. Another important part of navigating these shifts is trust. Your logical mind might not understand what's happening, but your soul does. Old energies are surfacing not to punish you, but to free you. When emotions or discomfort arise, don't suppress them. Feel them, breathe through them, and let them move. Energy can't transform if it's resisted. As your vibration rises, you'll also notice your outer world reflecting the change. Opportunities align, certain people drift away, and synchronicities increase. What once drained you now feels intolerable because your energy no longer matches it. This is the universe reorganizing your life to fit your new frequency. Embrace this phase with patience and curiosity. You're not falling apart. You're falling into alignment. Each energetic shift is proof that your evolution is real, a reminder that transformation is not just mental or emotional, but deeply energetic. You're becoming the vibration of the life you've been asking for. 10. How to stay consistent in your transformation. Staying consistent on your transformation journey isn't about being perfect every day. It's about showing up, even when it's hard. Real growth is built through steady, quiet commitment, not sudden bursts of motivation. There will be days when you feel inspired and unstoppable, and others when old habits, doubts, or fatigue try to pull you back. Consistency is what bridges the gap between who you are and who you're becoming. The key lies in understanding that transformation is a process, not an event. It unfolds gradually, layer by layer. When results don't appear right away, it's easy to lose patience or assume nothing's working. But beneath the surface, deep shifts are taking place. Your thoughts are rewiring, your emotions are stabilizing, and your energy is aligning with your higher self. Trust that unseen progress. To stay consistent, simplify your path. Don't overload yourself with too many changes at once. Focus on small, repeatable habits that build momentum, like 5 minutes of meditation, a gratitude journal, or one positive affirmation each morning. Small wins compound into massive change over time. Next, track your progress consciously. Write down your breakthroughs, challenges, and how you feel each week. Reflection helps you see growth you might otherwise miss, which keeps motivation alive. Transformation feels slower when you don't recognize how far you've already come. Another key is self-compassion. You will stumble. Everyone does. What matters is how quickly you return. Instead of judging yourself, gently remind yourself, this moment doesn't define me. My consistency does. Each time you realign after slipping, you strengthen your inner discipline. Also, surround yourself with supportive energy. That might mean uplifting content, spiritual teachings, or like-minded people who remind you of your purpose. Consistency thrives in an environment that mirrors your intentions. Finally, remember your why. Transformation loses meaning when it becomes mechanical. Reconnect often with the reason you started, the vision of peace, freedom, or purpose you're moving toward. Let that vision pull you through the days your motivation feels weak. Staying consistent doesn't mean never falling. It means never quitting. Every moment you choose alignment over apathy, you prove to your old self that change is not just possible, it's permanent. Keep going. Your persistence is the power that turns transformation into reality. You're no longer your old self. You're rising into your higher version. Keep growing. Keep trusting. Comment, "I choose my new self today." Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Pure Quantum.